So a man finds his lost sheep. He calls together his friends and neighbors and says, "Rejoice with me, because I found my lost sheep." And this woman finds the lost coin, and she calls her friends and neighbors together, and she says, "Rejoice with me, I found the lost coin." What does that look like, that rejoicing? I imagine there's food involved, right? Apple pies and cherry pies and maybe donuts and something to drink and something to eat. And they linger for a while, because if they just applaud, you think, okay, that's great, but what else, right? I once visited a Catholic church in central Wisconsin years ago. They came and asked me to give a talk at the church. It's in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin. The name of the town is called Pittsville, Pittsville. And said, "Could you give a talk and we'll have fellowship afterwards?" Well, I didn't know exactly what fellowship was, but then afterwards I found out what it was. It's apple pies and cherry pies and homemade, cookies and all that. So I like this kind of fellowship sort of stuff. So what does that look like when one sinner repents in heaven, with the angels rejoicing? Is there food? Is there music? Is there wine? Is there champagne? Are there mimosas? And how much rejoicing is going on in heaven? I've been wondering that question ever since Relevant Radio went on the air. How much rejoicing is going on in heaven? I think that's all they do now in heaven, is rejoice. Because Relevant Radio, as you know, reaches 275 million people, and around the world through the internet, up to 8 billion people. And we know from our measurements about 9 million people are touched by our programming every year. And a recent listener survey told us that anywhere between 43% and 60% come back to confession and go to confession more often. So if heaven rejoices over one soul, what are they doing now with Relevant Radio? They must be going crazy up there. It's like party time all the time. And what does that rejoicing look like? Well, I suppose there's some cheering going on, and then that's contagious because people like to cheer. A few weeks ago, we were in a salt mine in Poland, 800 feet under the ground on a pilgrimage. And at the bottom of the mine, they have actually made a church in that salt mine. And our group was one group behind, and all of a sudden we heard cheering going on, like loud cheering. And our tour guide said, "What's going on there? You're supposed to be quiet." And I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe the Cubs just won or something like that. And we finally got there and found out a young couple who was on our pilgrimage just got engaged to each other down there in Salt Mine. So there was applauding, there was cheering, there was smiles, there was pictures, and we knew what that was rejoicing about. So how do angels rejoice? They're spiritual beings. And what do they look like? Well, many times they have a sort of an anthropomorphic form, right? They look like human beings, but they've got wings. You've seen that on the tabor here we use for adoration. And there's 2 winged angels on the door of the tabernacle. Those wings have some sort of symbolism to them, but they're also borrowed from imperial Roman architecture. They were called winged victories, and they brought this into representation of angels in our faith. So sometimes they take on a human form, like St. Michael, St. Gabriel, and St. Raphael. But you can picture them in heaven singing and cheering and applauding, maybe jumping up and down, maybe doing races, flying around with their wings, blowing trumpets, and just kind of wildly ecstatic. Last night, when I went to look at my Facebook page, Facebook knows what I like to watch, so they showed me the Elon Musk rocket booster coming back into Earth. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's from like many miles away, and you see the crowd, and people literally jumping up and down, going wild, seeing this thing happening, a rocket booster coming back right to where it took off from. And you can see the joy of this human accomplishment, this magnificent accomplishment. Well, when a sinner repents, that's an even bigger accomplishment because they come back to the state of grace. That soul that was dead comes back to life. And when a sinner repents, the angels go wild. They rejoice. And when Christ was born, they rejoiced. They sang in at least 4-part harmony, maybe even more. And what do they do the rest of their time? They're up there saying, "Holy, holy, holy" to God, and those are the 3 words leading up to the tabernacle. Sanctus, Sanctus, Sanctus. So heaven is a very happy place because there's a lot of rejoicing because the angels are watching what's going on here on earth. We're doing the work down here. This is called the church militant. the church fighting ahead. There's the church triumphant in heaven. There's a church suffering in purgatory. And that's why for these 9 days we offer up our Mass and the Rosary and the Chaplet for the souls in purgatory.